In progress.
Good morning, everyone. We will go ahead and get started. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is located outside the door and also on our website. There's also an automatic external defibrillator available on the back wall of the legislative wall. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are going to change things up just a tad this morning. We're going to open up with the Board of Commissioners and do our public hearing first, and then we'll recess and go back to our regular agenda. So with that, roll call for the Board of Commissioners.
Commissioner Boyle. Here. Commissioner Kavanaugh is absent. I believe he's at a funeral this morning. Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Morgan. Here. Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Madam Chair.
Present. We'll move to the public hearing. The public hearing is for a Class CK 124762 licensed beer, wine, distilled spirits on and off sale and catering for Concert Players Club, DBA The Players Club at 12101 Deer Creek Drive. Manager application is for Cody N. McCann, 922 Ames Avenue, Omaha 68137, and catering. This is the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on the issue for the public hearing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Tim O'Neill. I'm with the law firm of O'Neill Heinrich, 800 Lincoln Square, 121 South 13th Street. Thank you for moving this item up on the agenda. Thank you very much. I represent Concert Players Club. They're the new owners of the golf course and going to continue to provide the same excellent service and hopefully better for the guests and public.
Get that microphone.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Sorry. I know you have a very busy agenda. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on this application.
Okay, any questions from anyone, or again, anyone wishing to speak during the public hearing on this item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. What is the will of the board?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Friend. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Yes, it
That
did.
was a good guess.
Everyone's voted. Motion passes 6-0.
Yeah. With that, we need a motion to recess from the Board of Commissioners and enter into the Board of Equalization. Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Give us one moment, please.
No, it's just that not turned on right.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. And now we will do a roll call for the Douglas County Board of Equalization.
Commissioner Boyle. Here. Commissioner Kavanaugh is absent. Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia. Here. Commissioner Morgan.
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers. Here. Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. And item B, call for a meeting and set Tuesday, March 29th, 2022 as a date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or value on, increased value on property. Is there a motion to approve A and B? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Boyle. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next is citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber or on Zoom wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to resolutions. We have resolutions D through L. Is there a motion to approve resolutions and adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Friend. Any questions or comments on any of those items? Please vote.
Chair Borgeson. Motion passes 6-0.
We'll now move to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Is there a motion to reconvene? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Boyle. Please vote.
Give us one moment, please. Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Boyle. That's okay. Motion passes 6-0.
And just for the record, could we do
Sure.
a roll call, please?
Commissioner Boyle.
Here.
Commissioner Kavanaugh is absent. Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Morgan. Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. And item B, approval of claims submitted for payment processed through Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion to approve A and B?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next is the consent agenda. We have items A through L, but there's been a request to pull items D and E. Just lay those over till our next meeting. And I think that was it, yes. So consent agenda items A through L minus D and E. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next, we'll move to recognition and proclamations. The first is a proclamation recognizing Sarah Collins Rudolph, a survivor of the 1963 16th Street Baptist Church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm going to read this resolution. I attended the Women of Color of Nebraska. It's an organization that Miss Levon Stennis started 2 years ago. And she recognizes women in the community that have made an impact in the community. And so the first year we were able to meet in person. The second year, because of COVID, we didn't meet. And then this year we met in person just on Saturday. And she always has a speaker. And this year she had Sarah Collins Rudolph. And it was very interesting to me because if you read about the history of the 16th Street Baptist church bombing, there really is very little, if none, comment about the sole survivor. And this is Sarah, Miss Sarah. And I had the honor to meet her, and she spoke about what it was like and the trauma she endured for the many years, even to this day. She has written a book, and then Miss Levon and her wrote a child's book together, and all proceeds will go to Miss Sarah to continue to help pay off her medical bills from this incident that happened decades ago. So whereas Sarah Collins Rudolph was 12 years old when dynamite planted by members of the Ku Klux Klan inside the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, exploded on September 15, 1963. The blast blew glass and shrapnel at her face, leaving her blind in one eye, killed her sister Addie Mae Collins and 3 other girls, Carol Robertson, Cynthia Wesley, and Denise McNair. And whereas Miss Rudolph was hospitalized for 2.5 months, spending her 13th birthday there and missing her own sister's funeral. And whereas no arrests were made at that time, decades later, Miss Rudolph's testimony would bring 3 bombing suspects and the Ku Klux Klan members, Robert Dynamite Bob Chapless, Tom E. Blanton Jr., and Bobby Frank Cherry to justice, leading to convictions of all but one who died before the trial started. And whereas national outrage over the church bombing and death of the girls who were attending Sunday school contributed to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Voting Rights Act of 1965. And whereas in the decades that have passed since that horrific day, Ms. Rudolph has spoken out about the trauma she has endured as a victim and survivor of the bombing. She has traveled across the country, spreading a message of hope and healing power of reconciliation. And whereas Ms. Rudolph was the guest speaker at the Fannie Lou Hamer Legacy Luncheon presented by the Women of Color Nebraska Caucus on March 19, 2022. And whereas the County Board of Commissioners wishes to recognize Sarah Collins Rudolph, a survivor of the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama, and thank her for sharing her painful story, speaking out against hate, and her dedication to making sure that the nation remembers the bombing and its significance in the civil rights movement. Now therefore be it resolved by this Board of Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board does hereby adopt this resolution to recognize Sarah Collins Rudolph, the survivor of the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama, dated this 19th day of March 2022. And, go ahead. Do we have a motion? There's a motion by Commissioner Rogers and a second by Commissioner Morgan. Any additional questions or comments? It was, again, just an honor to be there and meet her, but especially during Women's History Month, to have her and her husband, who is a veteran, a Vietnam veteran, drive from Alabama to attend the luncheon was pretty special. So, so we thank her for that. So with that, do we have a vote, please?
Motion passes 6-0.
And next is a resolution supporting the nomination of Benson T. Elmore, Director of Douglas County Veterans Service, for the 2022 VFW County Veterans Service Officer of the Year Award. And come to the podium, we'll read the resolution. We are super excited about this. Whereas Benson T. Elmore, Director of the Douglas County Veterans Service Office, courageously served in the United States Air Force for 17 years until he retired in July of 2014. And whereas Mr. Elmore began his career with Douglas County in 2015 as an Assistant Service Officer of Douglas County Veterans Service. In 2017, he became the Senior Assistant Service Officer and Office Manager before being promoted to the Director in December of 2018. And whereas he has made significant contributions to Douglas County and the entire veterans community over these past 7 years. And whereas Mr. Elmore helped veterans with accessing more than $11.7 million in VA benefits and nearly $280,000 in Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs aid from July 2020 to June 2021. And whereas he helped to establish Douglas County, a hidden heroes county, joining the Elizabeth Dole Foundation's network of more than 135 communities nationwide committed to identifying military caregivers and increasing awareness and support. And whereas Mr. Elmore developed 10 RT, a dedicated team of service officers who assist inpatient mental health veterans pursue new disability claims, working closely with VA social workers. And whereas he created a service without boundaries policy, assisting veterans in any county, any state, and any country. Currently, Mr. Elmore and his team are serving veterans in multiple counties, multiple states, and 2 foreign countries, Kuwait and Egypt. And whereas Mr. Elmore developed a process to assist in identifying incarcerated veterans with the goal of getting them into the Douglas County Veterans Treatment Court. And whereas he has also partnered with Wounded Warriors Family Support, a veteran-founded and veteran-operated charity serving wounded veterans and their families. And whereas he is a member of numerous national and local committees and has been a keynote speaker for several events. He's accredited with the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, Disabled American Veterans, and the American Legion. Now therefore be it resolved by this Board of County Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby supports the nomination of Mr. Benson T. Elmore, Director of the Douglas County Veterans Service Office for the 2022 VFW County Veterans Service Award of the Year Award, and recognizes his incredible commitment to veterans in Douglas County, Nebraska, and throughout the world. Dated this 22nd day of March, 2022.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Friend. Are there any comments? Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mr. Elmore, and I don't know if you have any comments, but I wanted to thank you personally. Most of the commissioners here on the board know my son is in the United States Army, and he's in Fairbanks, Alaska at Fort Wainwright. And right now, my wife loses sleep because he's out in the field in 15-degree weather firing howitzers into a mountain. And she worries about it all the time, and so do I. And I didn't understand it fully. I didn't understand your service, and I didn't serve. But I think I get a better feel for it now. And I just wanted to thank you because it means a little bit more to me now than it ever has. So thanks.
Anyone else? Commissioner Boyle?
I just wanted to ask, again, thank you for your service. Very impressive for you. Your credentials are great and what you're doing is amazing. I just wanted to see if you have anything to say. Do you have any comments?
Sure.
I
Well,
was gonna get to that.
first off,
That's okay.
I'm truly blessed and graced to serve and impact veterans and their families. And thank you to the County Board of Commissioners and also my boss, Mr. Bloomingdale. Even though I'm the one standing up here, this truly is a reflection of the entire staff and the entire department, not just me. This is truly an honor, and I am immensely grateful. Thank you very much.
And with that, we will ask for a vote, and then if we could get a quick photo with
Yes,
you in the front.
Commissioner Morgan. Motion passes 6-0.
You are here. Sorry, I didn't know if you were around.
Okay, hang on 1 second here. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. And one more. You want to scoot in just a hair, Roger? There you go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I think one last comment I would like to make after reading the resolution and reading it to everyone. It is pretty amazing, the work that our county folks do. And Mr. Elmore is a perfect example of the dedication, not only to those in Douglas County, but across the state and this country. And so we thank you sincerely for what you do and for your service, but you're pretty amazing, so we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. All right. Thank you. All right. With that, citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners about an item not on the agenda or on Zoom? All right, seeing none, we will move to item B. Yep, under public hearing. This is providing additional budget dollars for salary adjustment account and transfer budget dollars that are set aside in salary adjustment account for approved salary increases. Transfer budget dollars that are in the county administration ARPA account to departments which are earning the premium pay. It also increases the budget for the Public Properties Election Commissioner, Building Commission, and Drug Law Enforcement Fund. Provides additional budget dollars for budget increases with revenue offsets for environmental services, county administration, sheriff, and district court. This is in the amount of $10,866,893. I said that wrong. $10,866,893. And Mr. Lorenzo is with us, our Chief Financial Officer, to walk us through this. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I think we just handed out a couple summary sheets that I want to take you through. You know, we do this twice a year, but this is the big one when we put in the salary increases and budget adjustments, and then we'll do another one in May that we usually just do to get us across the June 30th finish line. So with that, the first thing I want to talk about is transfers for salary adjustments. This year we built into the budget about $2.1 million to cover this. And the salary adjustments are significantly above that $2.1 million. They're about $3.8 million or $1.7 million higher, so we have to increase the salary adjustment line by $1.7 million. And that's really driven by one thing that happened in the November-December timeframe. We made one-time adjustments driven by market conditions, primarily in the medical and nursing field, to increase the base pay rates of most employees at the health center and the community mental health center. So if you look at that $3.8 million, you can see the one-time adjustments were for this year $1.7 million for the health center and a little over $500,000 at CMHC. And a thing to note here is this is really for about 7 months of the year. So if you put this on an annual basis, the one-time adjustment at the health center is a little over $3 million, which is about 9% of their budget. And so at the CMHC, it would be a little under $1 million, which would be about 7% of their budget. But these market-driven actions have increased the funding. If you look at it on a total year basis, about $4 million a year in salary expense at those two facilities. Okay, so that's the first point. Secondly,
We also made a choice to use some of the ARPA money that we received for premium pay for people in public health and public safety departments. And this chart just kind of breaks out where that money's going. A couple thoughts here, that this money is really for the period July 1st to June 30th. The only exception to that is the sheriff, where the sworn officers will be receiving the payments for 8 months instead of 6 months. So this is a one-time action that should expire and not carry over into any of the future fiscal years. But in doing it, you can see that the estimate right now to increase the budgets for premium pay is about $7.7 million. And that is right now what we're basing on just the 40-hour week salaries. This number probably will increase depending on the amount of overtime that certain of these groups work, especially in areas like corrections where there is a significant amount of overtime. Although the population count at the jail is down fairly significantly, so we don't know that exact number. But so at this point, it's about $7.7 million in premium pay, which is one time, which is being paid for by ARPA money. And so you can see between these two, the salary adjustment and the premium pay, we're kind of taking, over $11 million increase in employee compensation in this budget supplement. Okay. And then the third part is just the department budget adjustments. And these are one-time adjustments. Most of these, thank God, are funded, have revenue offsets, and so we can run through them quickly. The environmental services is up significantly, but the great majority of that is through a contaminated soil program in North Omaha, where they're hauling soil over there, but that's also, we're being compensated and generating revenue for that. So that $5 million will be offset by increased revenue at the landfill. The second one is through county administration. This is another federal program in addition to CARES and ARPA. This is the ERA, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and this $3.3 million represents a transfer from the state of Nebraska to Douglas County because the state wasn't spending all their money. And we're working with the organization in Western Douglas County, COPE, because this ERA money is only for rental assistance outside the city of Omaha boundaries or limits. And so COPE, we had an original award of about $3 million that we've have exhausted, so we're using this, and this $3.3 million should get us through September, when the Emergency Rental Assistance Program 1 ends. There's also an Emergency Rental Assistance Program 2, which we recently applied for, and we will have received an additional $8 million for that ERA 2 program, and that has a longer end date. I think that goes to like 2025. So this program will be continuing to be administered by COPE in Western Douglas County, but should be going on for the next 2 or 3 years. The next one is public properties, increased utility expenses. That's driven by, surprise, surprise, mostly natural gas. Costs are up, and we all know about what's happening to energy cost. So the cost of that in heating our buildings went up by $345,000. The sheriff has some grant-funded expenditures, so there's a revenue offset. The election commission, there's a primary coming up that they're doing some work for, and there were a couple special elections, so they requested $60,000 in non-budgeted money. District Court also received a grant-funded a grant that they will use for certain expenditures, so there's a revenue offset. The building commission, there was a kind of a late adjustment in the civic center rent of $32,000, so that's just bringing the total budgeted rent expense up to what we will actually be charged by the Public Building Commission. And then the last one is Drug Law and Enforcement and Education Fund. This is again funded by some federal drug money, and they're going to increase their expenditures for some projects by $100,000, but again, that has offsetting revenue. So the total of these is about $9.2 million, but most except for about $500,000 has offsetting revenue. So it's not a huge number. If you look at this budget supplement, the issue that jumps out is that there was a significant increase in salaries, compensation expense. So with that, I'd answer any questions.
This is the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Morgan? I don't have my thing to see at this time on whether who's,
I got the new one too.
yeah. Oh, that's why, okay. I didn't even notice that.
Thank you very much, Joe Lorenz. Question for you now. I know on environmental services, you said that's offset, that $5 million by an amount. What do you think that amount is roughly that'll offset that in revenue at the landfill? Roughly.
Roughly, it should be about $4 million, because there's about $1 million there that's a timing issue, where last year they didn't make the monthly payment to Waste Management for a month, and it didn't get encumbered. So it's just a timing thing. That much money was left over in last year's budget, but it has to be paid out of this year's budget. But the rest of it, like I say, a little over $4 million, we will actually make a little money on, the landfill makes usually has a slight positive cash flow. And so that project with contaminated soil will generate all the expenses involved with that project will be compensated.
So you think approximately 90% of it is going to be covered
Yes.
by the offset? Okay, that's good. Which means instead of 5 million, you can take it down to maybe 4.7 or whatever it would
Yeah,
be,
and the other $1 million is just timing, really.
which brings down the 9 million. Then the other thing I was going to ask you, just for the public information and our own, that increase in the gas prices, when you talk about that percent, the 345,000, what is that percentage of it? I'm just wondering, we all can see our fuel cost in your car has gone up about 50% or more. I'm just wondering if that's 5%. I don't know what we paid.
Unfortunately, Jerry Leahy had another obligation this morning, so he's not on. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I just look at my personal heating bill, I know it was probably up this year, probably at least 10%.
Okay. And this winter wasn't one of the worst. We've had a pretty good winter, actually.
Yeah, there were some cold spells. There wasn't much snow, but gas has been creeping up for the last year, and it's starting to show up in our utility bills. Yes.
And I think what's important, for all of us on public service boards and so on, and elective offices, is to know this inflation factor is certainly going to be a real factor for some time. Now, I know they're planning 6-7 increases in the interest rate, but at the same time, I think it's going to be with us a while, and we're really seeing that.
I mean, if you eat or drive, it's a definite impact for you. If you don't,
or
it's
you
not
buy
as bad.
groceries and eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Fred?
Thank you, Thank you, Madam Chair. Joe, so you and I have talked about this from a cursory standpoint, but can you, if you go to the transfers for ARPA premium pay, again, we've talked about this a little bit, but, and we have as a board as well, the argument can be made that were it not for the pandemic, we may not be maneuvering, we may not have been maneuvering for premium pay. So if the pandemic never really occurred, we might not be in this position because the ARPA funds wouldn't be there, but we also wouldn't be in that position. But once you implement the increases, I mean, and I'm asking you for some historical knowledge, once you implement the increases, it does beg the question about whether or not we can budget for potential negotiations going forward, especially with mandated services. So are we not going to know what that type of budgeting looks like until we know what the revenue looks like in about a month? I mean, would that be your contention? Because we're talking about $7.6 million here, and not necessarily from an inter-fund standpoint, but from an general fund standpoint, that money goes away.
Yeah,
right?
you know, and the issue is that, you know, our regular permanent salary adjustments were close to 4 million. And then we have this other 7.6, and, you know, it's funded by ARPA money, but ARPA money is going to go away. So then, you know, if you want to maintain it at that level, it becomes problematic because we set our budgets to increase in a 3 to 4% range. And so you have this ARPA premium pay, which would be on top of that. So it would, you know, like you say, until we see the property assessments, we can't tell exactly, but to say that it's just sustainable without another source of funding is probably a stretch. I don't think I could tell you that I believe that was true.
Well, I know I put you in a difficult position, and we could talk offline about it a little bit, then put you in more of a difficult position. Because I feel like it's the professor trying to teach, you know, a high school kid how to crunch these numbers. What I'm getting at is, if you subtract the 4.6, we would still have to supplement in any given year $2 or $3 or $4 million, right?
By the January 1st pay increases, which we target at 3 to 4%.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Commissioner Boyle, did you have your? Commissioner Boyle?
Thanks, Joe. This is part of this is just to help me understand the last page. When you talk about this says budget supplement and then departmental budget adjustments. So on county administration with the emergency rental assistance program, the 3.3 million, is that something that we're getting in, right? Or are we spending?
Yeah, we
out?
just received the cash. So now, but what we do is we take the cash in and then we kind of quickly turn around and then send it back out to COPE, which we actually did last week because there's still some room in the administration budget. So what we have to do is the cash is in, but in order to disperse to COPE, we have to increase the administration budget by the amount of cash we receive. So it was just kind of, we got it in and put it out, but the budget has to be adjusted for it.
Got it. And then just along that line, 3 million went out to, or we gave them, or as part of the ERA 1, gave them 2.8 or something like that. And then here we've got 3.3 coming from the state, and then ERA 2, another 8 million. So it seems to me that it took a little bit of time to kind of get their feet on the ground to figure out how to distribute that money, but they've gotten rid of the first batch. So
yes.
do we feel like they're going to be able to give out?
Yeah, in working with this, you know, I worked a lot with Jane Gordon at COPE, and so we first came up because the state really came to us and said, well, how much money would you need to get to the end of ERA 1? And so Jane and I looked at the numbers and worked it out and said, yeah, this 3.3 million should get us through September. And then the 8 million for ERA 2 is just based on some funding formula from the federal government that if you looked at it, it was like we were eligible for 8.8 million and we've applied for that. And They gave out, I think, 40% of it that we also received in the last month, but we're holding that in reserve, and that's not impacting this year's budget because we're going to get through September with this, so that will actually be in next year's budget that we will factor that in.
Okay, I was just curious, because I know at first it seemed like COPE wasn't sure what to do with,
Oh, no.
or how to distribute it, but it sounds like they've got their.
Yeah, they've got it
figured
down,
out.
and there's a demand, and so,
Yeah.
and the numbers for ER1 are based on, you know, about a year's worth of experience now.
Perfect. All right, good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments during the public hearing on this item?
Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What's the will of the board?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Next, we'll move to committees, the first being the finance, the budget report as presented. And then we have a few ARPA funding resolutions. So the first is an ARPA approval of a resolution authorizing the award of $430,000 to Heartland Hope Mission to help fund its hunger and homeless prevention program through the purchase of a walk-in refrigerator and freezer unit. This is allocation is being invested from Commissioner Friends, Commissioner Garcia, and Commissioner Borgeson's allocation. And if someone was here from or on Zoom from the organization, they're more than welcome to come forward or come. I don't see her either. But anyway, they just moved into a new location, and this will again help them feed the low-income folks in our community. They also have a site in South Omaha, is actually where they originated. So with that, do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Boyle. Questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next one is an approval of a resolution authorizing the award of $498,000 to Millard Public Schools to fund mental health initiatives directed to its students and staff, and also authorize a $60,000 to Nebraska Volunteer Lawyers Project to fund a mental health advanced directive program to assist with people with degenerative mental health diagnosis, creating a legal plan for specific care. This investment is being made out of Commissioner Borgeson's allocation. And so I know that there are folks here for each organization, so if you'd like to come forward and just tell us a little bit about how this will help your organization, that would be great. State your name, your organization.
Good morning. I'm Bill
Hi,
Jelkin.
Bill.
I'm the Director of Student Services for Millard Public Schools.
I'm Marion Fay. I'm the Clark Community Initiative Facilitator for the Millard Public Schools.
And good morning, and thank you for having us here today to talk about our request. You know, one of my position, one of my jobs is to oversee the student health care in the district. And we've seen a drastic rise in student mental health concerns. And so one of our goals has been to try to bring those services to the school district and eliminate some barriers for families. And in addition to that, we also want to provide our staff better training in this arena so they're better equipped to recognize and then report some of those concerns that they're having for their students. And this initiative and this request will take us a long way in doing that, providing staff training, services for students directly at the school. It will also allow us to help some of the low-income students who may not have the funding to continue their mental health services. And so we really appreciate this opportunity and this consideration.
Okay. Marion, did you want to say anything?
I think Bill covered it really well.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm very excited. Again, not only myself, but this board has taken a priority in mental health services in our community.
And this, again, from talking with all of you and seeing the increase in need. Again, there was need there prior to COVID, but we all know that COVID exacerbated a whole bunch of problems. So happy to work with you on this, and so thanks for being here this
Really
morning.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
I'm, appreciative that you've initiated this. I'm just, and it may be a poor question on my part, but what are the other school districts? We didn't have any others that came to us on their programs, because I know it's not just an issue at Millard School District, but the other districts, OPS and 66 and so on. What are they doing, or is there some more information? And Mary Ann, I know you really have this as we all do, a real priority.
Well, they actually didn't come to me. I went to them because of the allocation that we were awarded that we could use in our districts.
Okay.
And one of the things, again, that I saw or heard constantly were school districts struggling with the increased need in mental health services. Again, as they said, not only to the children, but to their staff. And so the training and the programs that we would be able, and again, the low-income folks. So the other districts, again, if commissioners within schools within their districts, if they'd like to reach out to them, I'm sure they'd love to talk to you about what they're doing or anything else that they could help with. But again, I reached out to them because of
Okay.
the allocation that was given to us.
Very good. Okay, that's good to know. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe in the future, we may get an update of how this has helped or what might be,
Sure, absolutely.
Absolutely. Good improvements and things.
I think that one of the things about this district is that it's great about tracking and investing in evidence-based programs so that we can provide you that information and bring back to you
That's great.
some of the progress and goals met.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And next is the organization Nebraska Volunteer Lawyers Project to fund the Mental Health Advanced Directive Program. And with us today is Shannon. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you so much for considering this proposal today. I work with the Nebraska State Bar Association's Volunteer Lawyers Project. I'm also on the advisory board for the Southeast Nebraska's NAMI. This project, expanding access to mental health advanced directives, is very important to us. I know personally from advocating for treatment for people who are having psychotic episodes, one of the hugest barriers that we've faced are legal issues and not understanding how laws work around treatment and severe mental illness. This project would expand access to mental health advanced directives, which allow people living with severe mental illness to write instructions for their care if they have an episode in the future, and also assign a mental health power of attorney. It really allows people to better heal because their care is more collaborative. The Nebraska Volunteer Lawyers Project would be working to expand access and educational materials around the law by working with volunteer attorneys who would also draft legal documents for people. And we'd also work to expand access to accurate legal information for people with severe mental illnesses and their family members, particularly in those early cases when it's so important to intervene. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Shannon? Again, I'm very excited about this one as well, and I forgot to say that both of these will be funded multiple years. It's a 3-year award. But this is so important. Again, I think that during not only the time where they're early, but even through when they're in recovery, that we get to them to be able to voice and have a say in what their care is so important, and appreciate the work that your organization does and you bringing this forward to request. So thank you, and we look forward to hearing how it goes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam
Any
Chair,
other questions?
I apologize. Shannon, was it Syme? I'm sorry, was the last
Yes,
name?
Syme,
Okay, thank you
S-Y-M.
very
Yep.
much.
All right, with that, there was a motion
And a second?
Actually, I don't think we do have a
I
motion.
think Commissioner Rogers made the motion. No? Okay. Commissioner Rogers, is there a second? Commissioner Boyle, second. Any further questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Again, thank you all for being here. Next is a ARPA funding request, the approval of a resolution authorizing the award of $800,000 to Ronald McDonald House Charities to help fund a new treatment center, which will address the social determinants of health, which provide equitable well-being, and also authorize an award of $500,000 to Symphony Workforce to fund a Find the Way project, which is a human resource and talent development program for high school students. This award totals $1.3 million, and this is invested from the allocation provided to Commissioner Friend. And you guys are fast. Hello.
Good morning.
If you want to state your name and what organization you're with.
Sure. My name is Lindsay Ray Corton. I'm the CEO of Ronald McDonald House Charities.
Carrie Ketchum, the Chief Development Officer for the Ronald McDonald House Charities in Omaha.
Good morning, and thanks for being with us. And again, Commissioner Friend, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Well, yeah, thank you, first of all, for the dialogue over the last month or so. I wanted to explain, and we're going to get to it because and I'll be brief. I've said that too many times. There's too many people in this room that know me, and brief doesn't come to mind. The analysis of the ARPA funding that we've been doing, we're spending millions and millions of dollars here, but while it's understandable and appreciated what the federal government has done, what Ronald McDonald House, Symphony, and all the other organizations on this list have provided us is an opportunity to get a significant bang for the buck, if you will. And unless we, as a county board, which was appropriated $110 million over a 2-year span, unless we were going to give everybody in the county $100, $100, that's what it would amount to almost, then there's going to be winners and losers. That's just the way it is. So my thought process when I was going through this, and I can't speak for every commissioner, but it was one of the things that was on my mind, is that if you're going to disperse and appropriate this type of funding, you're going to need a significant understanding of how it's going to impact our community. The other thing you're going to need are metrics, because a year from now you're going to have to figure out whether that money you handed to somebody is actually has had some value add. So my thought process when I went through this, and I got a chance to talk to Lindsay Ray on a couple of occasions, like I said, is where's the feedback? What do we get? We did it with Madonna. We did it with a lot of the other organizations, and I'm very comfortable that they can communicate, that value add, and I hope that we can move some of these things forward, and there's more things on the agenda. So that was my thought process. Like I said, $100, if you handed me $100, I'd do some good stuff with it, but it would probably be a fish sandwich and some chicken nuggets. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is we have an opportunity here, and we've had an opportunity over the last few months. Hopefully we can, we can get some value add out of it. So you guys knock yourselves out.
Sure. So I'll just address specifically the feedback loop that we have already preemptively chosen to put into place. So there's also some other dollars from the feds that have been given to measure social determinants of health, which is just the new phrase to identify that 80% of someone's health outcomes are a result of how they live and work and play and things like that. So working with Sync Health, they've already approved $50,000 in research for what we're doing that will be published. This has never been done before in terms of taking social determinants of health and putting them inside of our environment, which we can consider a living lab, to show that if we're able to make the conditions so beneficial for these families in a way that each of our families that come in, we consider them pre-trauma. If you had to uproot your life for your child and they were critically ill and you had nowhere else to go, you would be experiencing pre-trauma. So in addition to all of the wraparound programs that we already are providing, we want to measure and make sure that this is something that is actually making a difference. So Sync Health has given $50,000 and has engaged the team already and is waiting for us to get started on this so that we can show you the results. So the results of all of this, and we are confident, is that we are going to be able to potentially affect clinical outcomes for the children that are being seen in Omaha. They can't get the care that they need in their hometown anywhere else in the United States. They come to Omaha because they're that critically ill, and our medical community can help that. We come in on the hope and healing side with some very intentional programs that are affecting how their social determinants of health for the entire family can influence that diagnosis, can influence their own life, and then as they move forward, hopefully they're not contributing to the continuance of mental health issues that could be a result of their relationship with that child and their diagnosis. So all of that just to say that the feedback loop is going to be there in the form of published research that's going to be conducted by Sync Health.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then your next, there he is. Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. My name is Todd Smith. I'm the CEO of Symphony Workforce. I am extremely thankful to you all for understanding the simple truth. If we continue to do the same things the same way, we will get the same result, right? So what we know about young people is that the thing that they've taken to and digested at this rapid rate, TikToks, Snapchats, right? Things in their life that happen here. If it happens in brick and mortar, it gets adopted at that same pace it always has. So our platform, Find the Why, connects young people from all over your county through career discovery with actual companies, HDRs, Hawkins, OPPD, to find dynamic employment, internships, virtual internships, in case they don't have transportation, gets them into apprenticeships, all these things on here, which allows them to go back to their school, their third period class, and say, you know what, I now know why I need to re-engage after 3 years of COVID. And you all have now put that into play. One of the things that we're really excited about that starts tomorrow, we have an official relationship with OPS. All the T's crossed, all the I's dotted, and tomorrow we start to design our program. That will be a year-long program with them that can impact up to 37,000 kids. We have a partnership with Westside. We have partnerships with school districts all over. And I thank you for understanding that we have to do new things. In terms of data, you receive back aggregate data every quarter. You won't have to wonder if this is going well. You will have the information. You won't have to wonder who's going to apprenticeships. You'll understand that. You won't understand who's decided, hey, I want to go to a 2-year or 4-year, or I want to go right to work, because you'll have that. Investing money without having data back is something we've done far too long, and we shouldn't do that any longer. And so I'm happy to be partnering with you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Did you want to say anything?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I got a chance to meet Todd, oh gosh, it's probably, I don't know, they all run together, probably 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago. And when he presented some of this information, it goes to what I was talking about before. And I won't be redundant. What I was always worried about is the impact. Todd spoke to it a little bit. And when I realized that it's offering some of these kids an opportunity to think pretty creatively, it occurred to me that how many of them can you hit? How many of them can you get to? And again, you hand out that $100, you virtually get to no one. All they know is that the county handed them $100. So I won't go down that road again, but I was very impressed with Todd's presentation, and I think over the next year we're going to find some pretty interesting stuff that comes out of the work that they're doing. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you, Todd.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And did we have a motion? Okay, is there a motion?
Chair, I'm gonna move to approve the Ronald McDonald House charity and have somebody else approve Symphony Workforce, because I'll need to abstain by being on the board.
Okay.
So I'll move to approve the Ronald McDonald House.
I can second, or both of them, that's easier.
Just the first one then, since we have to split it? Okay, so you'll say, so Commissioner Rogers made the motion and Commissioner Boyle made the second for the Ronald McDonald House investment?
One moment, please. Sorry, Commissioners. Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
And now, do we have a motion to approve the $500,000 for Symphony Workforce to fund the Find the Way project?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes, Commissioner Rogers abstaining, all other commissioners voting yes.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next is the approval of a resolution authorizing the award of $56,815 to First Friday Outdoors to help fund a monthly program in Benson, which provides community building and engagement in the arts, and also authorize an award of $20,000 to Omaha Center for Refugees and Immigrant Services, Inc., to fund the purchase of cultural food and a refrigeration unit to store the food. This is an investment made from Commissioner Boyle's allocation, and do you have, they're not here, did you want to say?
Yeah, just a couple things. First, the one regarding Benson First Fridays, it really has a lot to do with community building and with just improving social infrastructure, and so I thought that was an important cause. And then the second was the Omaha Center for Refugees and Immigrant Services. They do a lot of for the immigrant community there. They have a food kitchen, a food bank basically, and the refrigerator broke down, so they just asked for another one, and so I thought that would be, of course, a worthy cause as well. So.
Great. Would you like to make the motion?
Yep, so I'd like to make a motion to approve those two for Benson First Fridays and for the Omaha Center for Refugees and Immigrant Services.
Okay, is there a second? All right, any further comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next is an approval for a resolution authorizing the award of $304,000 to No More Empty Pots Food Hub to cover remodeling costs involved in the establishment of the food hub, and also to authorize funds to pay the architectural design fees of $250,000 for a multi-purpose North Omaha Cultural Center, along with authorizing $75,000 to make the Mariah Heritage Center compliant with ADA standards for the opening of its Ecumenical History of North Omaha exhibition. This investment was made out of Commissioner Rogers' allocation, and do you have folks here? Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me note the first distribution is is partnered with myself and Commissioner Friend for the 340 This will go to pay off some construction costs of No More Empty Pots. In respects to work that was done before the pandemic and got slowed down, it'll free up funds in their budget to be able to continue to serve in some food deserts and some people around the area that are food insecure, and the projects that they're working on in regards to urban agriculture. The second project of 250 is going toward the North Omaha Cultural Center, but largely to lay down their initial work to house and honor the work of Senator Chambers over the years. My hope is that that spot will be a draw for people to come around and understand not only his history, but the history of North Omaha and his role in bringing that forth. Also, the Mariah Heritage Center will make it ADA compliant, but help to solidify that building there on 24th and their effort there to the exhibit to honor the history of the Black church here in Omaha. So 2 of them are here. The projects, if they want to say anything, they can. If not, we can approve. Okay. Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Boyle. Please. Oh, the second, sorry. Motion by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Boyle. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next, we will move to Human Resources, the weekly personnel report from Civil Service as presented. And then as far as our legislative issues, the debate has been quite lively down there. But through March 11th marked the 40th legislative day for the 60-day session. They are going to reconvene today, actually. But a couple notes is that the Appropriation Committee advanced budget bills last week, and the committee recommendation included a 15% provider rate increase for the following categories: the Medicaid behavioral health providers, behavioral health regions, developmental disability services, juvenile justice behavioral health providers, juvenile justice providers, and the community corrections behavioral health providers. And so this was very good news. And then the LB 989, which would fund the appropriate funds for the Medicaid nursing facility rates, was also included, so that was good news. It would allocate an extra $26 million of the general fund to the Medicaid nursing facility rates. So also our bill, LB 908, Speaker Silgers selected that to go on consent calendar, so that was approved and good. And then the other one we're kind of watching to see what happens are, again, the one we took a position on is LB 1223, which would require the reimbursement for lodging certain defendants in county jails and require state hospitals to maintain beds for certain patients. There was a conversation that we had with Commissioner Hansen, or Senator Hansen and Senator Lathrop about this legislation, and some of it was focused around the regional beds, and what one of the big problems is with the regional center as it is today is we never really quite understood what the purpose of the regional center is in Lincoln. When behavioral health reform happened and regional centers were closed, it was the only regional center that was specific for folks to go to, especially for their competency restoration assessments, folks who had to be in a longer term type of treatment. But it just kind of went up and down as far as what it was, and we never were allocated as regions the allotment of beds we had for our regions to be able to place folks there. So in fact, during behavioral health reform, it was 90 beds that we were supposed to be allocated. We never saw that. They came out here recently during this legislative session that they were going to allocate 30 beds. And we kind of said, no, so we're back up to 40. But with Senator Lathrop and Senator Hansen, what we talked about is we really do need to figure out what that facility is for and what is it going to be utilized for. And so the regions will have a better way as their statute responsibility is the behavioral health authority for their region. So we have to know what we can utilize those beds for. So we agreed that we would be a participant and help in that, but that we also wanted them to look at more than just that, because the state also never fulfilled its responsibility in long-term care beds. That is not our responsibility. We don't want it to be our responsibility. And so they're going to take a look at that as well. So it was a good conversation and good movement on issues that, we've talked about for a long time. And so we'll see where that goes. And then the only other one is LB 921, where it changes sentences of imprisonment where folks serve their time. If you remember those lower level felonies, Senator Lathrop wanted those to have their time served in our county jails. Some of those, though, have a sentence to a minimum of no jail time to 4 years. And county jails are not equipped nor built, or we don't have the staff or the processes in place for us to hold folks long term. So there's ongoing discussions about that, as well as sentencing reform on various laws that are on the books right now. So lots of conversation, good conversation, sometimes hard conversation, but I think we're making some progress on those legislative fronts. So I'll keep you posted if we hear anything, but again, the debate's been quite lively down there. So with that, any other legislation comments, questions?
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette, Omaha, Nebraska, 68132. I'd like to present another big picture item in legislation. I would like to see this body today contact their Congress to oppose the nomination of a Supreme Court justice. And my reason being is I listened yesterday. She hasn't took that oath yet, but she already has, to support the Constitution. But she doesn't understand the Constitution, ladies and gentlemen. She used the word about our form of government 2 or 3 times yesterday as being a democracy. She does not honor the Constitution or support it when she says that. Historians describe 5 kinds of governments. Democracy and republics are part of those. There's a difference. You need to oppose this nomination on the grounds that she does not support the Constitution, because you swore the same oath. Therefore, you should be against her. The next item on this is LR 14, the Convention of States. As I sat and looked at the agenda today and listened to the money given out, that's another reason that we do need a Convention of States, to rein in the government overfunding for one thing. There are other items too. Government overreach. As I read through the items on the spending items here, I don't think our Constitution authorizes you to give money away like that. I'm right here right now. Can I have some of that? Just because we have COVID, which was declared under a national emergency? We're passing out money to Jim and Joan and Harry and Dick and Jack and Jill running up and down the hill to line up behind this microphone to get money. This is a good way to earn yourself a salary and pass it through the taxpayer. That is against the Constitution. And if you go back to the early days, even before the Declaration of Independence, the citizens would riot in the streets and go after the tax collectors, etc., that were breaking the contract with the colonists. They even tarred and feathered some of them. It got to the point where we petitioned the government, which was the king, because the king controlled everything. And he ignored us. Parliament ignored us. So we decided to find our own country and declare independence from a tyrant. Our form of government right now is reaching that. And one of the last items on the agenda today mentioned the word disparities. Critical race theory is sneaking in quite often into our agendas. If there's a disparity in the health provision of health in North Omaha or South Omaha or Dundee, if you know that, then you should go and charge the person that are responsible for that. Because doesn't that sound like sort of like a crime? That's not my responsibility. So let's erase that stuff out of our resolutions. And finally, I want to show you an example, talk about an example of government tyranny. Oftentimes we hear down here about programs to let somebody out before they even pay bail. Or somebody pays bail for them or send them home on release. Some of those crimes are pretty violent. Last week I went to a sentencing for a gentleman who all he did was put up a strange fence and post some signs on it and complain to the city about the conditions of the noise. This gentleman was not violent, but I watched the judge decide that he was going to have him handcuffed. Yes, house arrest, but they wouldn't let him go to his own house. And then they decided they were going to keep him over the weekend. The person he was supposed to stay with, if they granted it, was right there in the same room. But this judge decided he was going to keep him. Maybe just for a couple hours, but it ended up being the whole weekend. He might still be there.
Time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is it.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Is there a motion to go into executive session for legal advice, union negotiation? I'm sorry.
Can I do that reconsideration?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
If I can, the board would, I'd like to ask for a motion to reconsider H6. I forgot, I need to abstain on that because I'm on the board. So if I could just have H6, and per the rules, we went past it, I have to ask for reconsideration. So if I could ask for a motion to reconsider H6. Yes.
Okay,
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Friend and seconded by Commissioner Morgan to reconsider H6 on the agenda. Please vote.
And then I just need to abstain.
Motion passes 6-0.
And now do we have a motion to approve H6?
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Friend.
Thank you all.
Please vote.
Commissioner Friend.
Sorry, Dan.
No, you're fine. Motion passes. Commissioner Rogers abstaining. All our commissioners voting yes.
I just make
And now,
comment that I appreciate that Chris does serve on so many boards, and I've seen that being here for a number of years, and I appreciate the work you do out there. I'm not sure that you don't hear from your wife that you're on too many boards, but we appreciate what you do in the community, Chris.
Thank you. I'm going to use that endorsement when she tells me that.
is there so we do have need to go into executive session. We have executive session for legal advice, union negotiations, and litigation.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Friend, seconded by Commissioner Rogers. Please vote.
And motion passes 6-0.
Oh, yeah.
Recording stopped.